Okay, so welcome back to day 3 of Reignite Your Love for the Piano Masterclass. And if you are joining me in Zoom, that song, This Is Me, is for the ones who feel like they've needed to hide behind their music, or worse, hide from it entirely. So, in today's message, we're going to be talking about people who maybe they show up strong and maybe they show up strong in a lot of their other parts of their life, but somehow, whenever they sit at the piano and someone is watching them, they have a little bit of difficulty showing up there. So, let me start with a very vulnerable question. Okay, YouTube is on, yay. And so is Facebook. Okay, so let's start with a very vulnerable question. Have you ever prepared a song at the piano and you prepared it so well you could play it from beginning to end, no problem? But you sit down to play the piano and your hands start shaking. Your stomach drops. You cannot catch your breath. Your fingers forget what to do at the piano. Your knees knock. Your feet start shaking, whatever the case may be. That moment can feel like your confidence dissolves right in front of God and everybody. And it's painful. It's so confusing because you have prepared and prepared and prepared. You put so much work into this. And for many, it's not just so much confusing and painful, it becomes very shameful for them as well. But today, I want to tell you that you're not broken, you're not weak, and you're certainly not alone. The problem isn't with your hands, and it's not a problem that you haven't prepared enough. It's a protective pattern from your nervous system. And when your nervous system kind of feels like you are in danger, it will start to do whatever it can to say, hey, stop, just stop, let's not do this. So your body learned to associate being watched at a performance, being watched, whatever, with danger. And sometimes this comes from childhood, sometimes it comes from early adulthood, sometimes it comes from God only knows where. But most of the time, what happens is you will be associating that with something that happened in your past. Maybe you were performing and you were judged very harsh. Maybe you were performing and, I don't know, shamed for something. And your body learned just to associate being watched at the piano with danger. Maybe it was a childhood recital that went wrong, harsh criticism from a teacher or a parent, maybe. Maybe it was a time you blanked out and you just never forgave yourself. Whatever that moment was, your body stored it as being seen as not safe. If you are given to read, if you like to read, if reading is something that's cool to you, there is a book. I don't remember the author's name, but the book is The Body Keeps the Score. And I read the book, I've read it, and it's very on point. The body absolutely does keep the score. So, what is the solution? If you're facing this, what is that solution? Is it pushing harder? Is it practicing until perfection? No. It's about retraining your body to feel safe being seen at the piano. It's about retraining your body to be safe at performing again. It's about embodying peace before you press a single key. So let's go ahead and try something together. And then I am going to tell you a few stories, one about one of my students, one about myself, and I'm going to give you tips in case you deal with this yourself. I have a few tips that I'd like to share that will help you to navigate through this. So first of all, if you're at your piano, wherever you're at, I want you to sit tall. Place your feet on the floor, just let your shoulders drop, just be relaxed. And take a deep, slow breath in and then out. And breathe again and then out. Now that we've breathed in a few times, imagine that you're at the piano. There's a small audience. It might be your family. It might be a few friends. It may be a small church group. Whatever that is, place your hands on the keys. But instead of rushing, pause and quietly say in your spirit, I am safe to be seen. I am calm in this moment. I am enough right now. So let's say that together. I am safe to be seen. I am calm in this moment. I am enough right now. Now, this is an anchored affirmation. You breathe it, you believe it, you play through it. And before you even sit down to play the piano, you don't wait until you're calm to start playing. You say this when you sit down and you create the calm before you start playing. So one of my students, we'll call her Nicole, she told me something that just really broke my heart. And she said, I prepare so hard. I prepare. But the moment I sit at the piano in front of whoever, the moment I sit there in front of church, the moment I sit there and I'm going to play a recital, I literally start shaking. And she said that she has walked away from the piano in tears because she could not finish her piece. So I asked her, what if your body isn't the enemy? What if it's just scared? So we started the visualization with practice, and she visualized her performances going well. She anchored her new affirmations into her pre-performance routine. She did a little bit of mirror work. And after a few weeks, she was able to play a small recital without freezing. Now, she still felt nervous, but this time her body didn't take over and just shake. And it was because she trained it to feel safe. Now, I've been through this myself. Whenever I went to high school, when I was younger, my high school was a Christian school. And we went to what was called student convention. So you would go and compete with people who were regional. And then you would go to state. If you passed regional, you'd go to state. And then you would go to nationals and then internationals. So it was sort of kind of like UIA. And so I went to to where we did it locally, and I won first place. And so I went on to state. When I got to state, I was up against 400 other people who were other competitors. So against about 400 other competitors, it just really shook me. I was from a small town. I knew everybody. I get in front of 400 other competitors and 3 judges. So I am sitting there, and I played a piece by Mozart, probably know it, Turkish March. And I won 3rd place that year state. And I did well to win 3rd place state. But what had happened was, while I was playing, I got to shaking so bad. Now, I still hit all my notes. I don't know how I did, but I was hitting my notes correctly, but I was shaking so bad. And I could barely get up and walk to go back to my seat after I had finished my performance. Now, I did not have these tools. I did not have the facts and stories tools. I was a teenager. I had no idea. I wished I would have had those mindset tools many years ago, but I didn't. And that's okay. But now, even, fast forward to my 30s, I would get up in front of people to play, and that same thing would come back, and I would start to shake. And I'm like, okay, but I have practiced and practiced and practiced. I've poured my heart into this. And so one of the things, and I shared the same tool yesterday with you, is facts and stories. You sit down and write out, okay, this is going on. Every time I go to play in front of anybody, I start shaking uncontrollably. So then once you write that out in detail, you don't beat yourself up over it. You don't shame yourself for it. You just write it out in detail exactly the way that it is. And then you say, okay, what facts have happened? Why do I feel that I am not safe to play the piano? What has happened? And so you kind of write down, okay, I was in front of judges, and I got very bad criticism from judges because I shook before, and I have this belief that I cannot perform without shaking. So then you write out what you want to happen. Also, one of the same tools I shared yesterday is, writing out what's the worst possible thing that could happen. And you write that out in all detail. And then you say, okay, how will I survive if the worst thing happens? And then you write that out. And then you say, okay, so how would I like this to work? Well, I would love to sit down and play from beginning to end without shaking. Now, these are very good tools to do, but the anchoring routine about sitting at the piano whenever you get to the piano and sitting at the piano and saying those affirmations, you don't have to say them aloud, but you can sit there and pause before you start to play. And sit there and pause and say that, speak the affirmations out loud. I am safe to be seen. I bring peace to the piano. My music is not perfect, but it's personal. Visualize your piece going well. Visualize it going well. Visualize it going freely and flowing. It doesn't have to necessarily be flawlessly. Now, you can, write that down. I play from beginning to end flawlessly. You can write that down, but also realize that chances of it going flawlessly may not happen. So how are you going to survive through that? Begin with presence and not just panic. So this routine, it retrains your body, and it retrains your body to connect safety with playing. Instead of sitting there and saying, oh my God, I can't be seen, I'll shake. It retrains you to feel like you are okay, you are safe being seen. So today, we'll go ahead and go on to the piano. Today we are going to play a simple 4-measure piece, hands together, using blocked chords in the left hand and melody in the right hand. So we're going to bridge the gap between fear and flow. And one of the most common blocks that I hear from adult pianists is this: I can play each hand alone. I can play them separately, but when I try to put them together and try to play at the same time, I freeze up. So that's why today's piano skill is powerful. And I'm going to teach you how to play a short, beautiful 4-measure piece, hands together, just 4 little measures, using blocked chords in the left hand and a clear melody in the right hand. So if you were with me yesterday, I taught the 1, the 4, and the 5 chords. So we're going to continue with those 1, 4, and 5 chords. And we're going to start with that 1 chord, which is our foundation. That's our home base. And the chord progression is the 3, the C chord, the F chord, and the G chord. Your left hand will play a blocked triad for each of the 3 measures. So whenever I say a blocked triad, so the C major chord was C, E, G. So you're going to play C, E, and G with your left hand all together. So that's what a blocked chord is. So you will play the 3 notes, C, E, G, F, A, C, G, B, D. You'll play those all together. So here's the progression we'll use. We'll use, for the first measure, we'll use the C major. Hang on just a moment. Okay. So we'll use the C major chord. And then for the second measure, we'll move up to F. For the third measure, we'll move up to G. And fourth measure, we're going right back home to C. So pretty easy. So C, F, G, and then back to C. So now for the right hand, we're going to create a simple melody over the top. The melody will mostly use notes from those same chord tones. So it will sound very consistent and it will sound satisfying. So for our first measure, we're going to use E, G, A, and G. Where is middle C at? Okay. Middle C, if you'll find the group of 2 black notes closest to the middle of your keyboard or your piano, take your index and middle finger of your right hand, play those two black notes, and with your index, slide to the note, the white note on the left, and that is middle C. So C, E, G is our C chord, F, A, C, our 4 chord, G, B, D, our 5 chord. Awesome. So what we're going to use for our right hand melody is E, G, A, G. E, G, A, G. The second measure that we're going to use is A, F, G, A. A, F, G, A. Okay. A, F, G, A. And then the third measure is B, G, D, E. B, G, D, E. And then we've got G, E, D, C. Now, you don't have to stick just to those. You can make up your own tune as we go along. So now what we're going to do is we'll play the block chord in the left hand. We'll play the tune in the right hand, and we'll put it all together. So E, G, A, G. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, now let's go to the second measure. So the second measure, we've got the F chord, and we're going to play A, F, G, A. Okay, once again. Third measure is going to be our G chord in the left hand. And with the right hand, B, G, D, E. And then back home to home base, your C major chord, and we'll play G, E, D, C. Okay, so let's try that once again. Okay, so you can pretty much in the key of C, you can just play around, make up your own. Make up your own, tune. So play the melody in your right hand slowly until it feels smooth. Then practice just your left hand chords. One measure at a time. Find your C, E, G. Then find your F, A, C. Then find your G, B, D. Find that 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord back to 1. You just find those chords, get used to going back and forth between those chords, and then pick you out a melody that works with those chords. It can be a lot of fun. And here's the secret sauce for combining your hands. Don't try to play fast. Align your right hand melody notes with the left hand chord only in the first beat of the measure. So if you noticed, whenever I played the CEG, I just played the CEG and I held it down. And when I played, my melody, my first note of melody came with that chord. I did not do any syncopation at all. Now, as you get used to playing with your hands together and your hands are used to going together and playing well, then you can put syncopation in there, you can jazz it up, do whatever you want to do. So let the rest of the melody just float on top. Once you've hit that chord, just let that chord sit there until you're ready to go to the next chord. And let that melody just flow on top of that. And this makes your left hand feel like a steady anchor. And you don't feel like you're all over the place. And it allows your right hand to move more freely. So this technique is the first step toward hand independence. And you've probably heard of hand independence. The blocked chords give structure and confidence. The melody gives life and emotion. So here's the mindset shift that I want you to take away. Don't rush to impress. Slow down to connect. The moment you feel overwhelmed, bring your attention back to just one measure. Master one measure, hands together. And then you can go to another. And that's how you build trust with yourself at the piano. And stage flow with presence. And presence begins with, I got stuck. Okay. Presence begins with permission. You don't have to prove anything. Just show up one measure at a time. So today's homework, practice the embodied anchoring routine. Just practice that once today. When you sit down at the piano, put your hands at the piano and say, I am safe to be seen. I am safe to play. Write down how your body felt before and after, if you're a person who likes to journal. Record yourself playing for 30 seconds. Now, with the recording, when you sit down to record, I know a lot of my students have this problem. They'll sit down to record themselves playing a piece at the piano, and it will be something that they've played for me perfectly. It will be something that, they have played for a long time. But whenever they sit down at the piano and they turn on their phone and they're going to, record for 30 seconds, all of a sudden they just mess up. But here is the thing. If you will start to record yourself in just small little intervals, you will find that whenever you do that consistently, and then you go to sit down and play in front of a group of people, that it will feel more natural. There's something about recording yourself that just makes you feel like everyone is watching you. It can be unnerving at times. But whenever you do sit down to record yourself, notice, do you play differently when you lead with calm? Whenever you sit down and you play, and you have done those anchoring affirmations, did you feel differently? Just look at that. So courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is just play through it anyways. Even if your hands shake, even if your voice trembles, even if your past says, hey, you can't. Your presence says, well, guess what? I'm here now. So this is your moment to be seen, not for how perfect you play, but for who you are becoming at the piano. So tomorrow we're going to talk about something as equally as important, how to bring joy back. Even years after frustration and burnout, we're going to be talking about the pentatonic scale, so you probably don't want to miss that. But for now, let this truth settle in your spirit. You do not have to disappear to, play the piano. You do not have to perform to be worthy. You are allowed to be fully seen and still fully safe. So that's all for today. I will see everyone back here tomorrow on YouTube, same time, in Zoom, same time. Also on Facebook, same time. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.